So, welcome to the As Told by You podcast. I'm Bill, this is Brian, and we have got Heather Heuman with us today. This is really, really exciting because she's the first guest we've ever had that has brought a book in. And we don't even know what to do.
Yes, a published author.
She's actually an author, so that means she knows stuff. And so that's very exciting. So thanks for coming in.
Absolutely. It's exciting to be here.
So tell us a little bit about what you do, and then how do you get to the point where you write a book?
Yeah, so my 78-year-old father asked me 4 days ago, he's like, no, what is it that you do? And I was like, Dad, I help people grow using social media. But I'm a social media strategist, and I love letting people know that they can use social media to build relationships with the real people that are their ideal audience to grow their business. So that's like the short version of what I do.
Now, how do you get to that point? How do you, obviously we all have social media. Well,
yeah.
Most of us have social media accounts. What's the path to get to that place where you feel good enough about it that you can help people do it?
Yeah, so it didn't start out as, oh, this seems like a pretty lucrative, great business opportunity, let me do this. It really started more so out as a path for myself. In 2011, I started my first company, and I said, let me leverage Facebook and Twitter for free to advertise and to market this. So I just pretty much had my own business and said, I've got a website, everything's there, I want to use social media. So to me, it was about building engagement, showing up, and just using it for myself, for my own business. That was like a locally based business in Kentucky. And what happened over the course of several months was I had small business owners in our local community say, what are you doing? How can I do this for myself? So it was really just more so meeting people over coffee and saying like, well, this is what I'm doing. And then it led to an opportunity where the Chamber of Commerce had a position called a relationship manager. I was like, I'm married. Like, what are you talking about? But they're like, no, we basically want you to use what you are doing with social media to help us grow our membership. So I found myself ultimately going from it was just me using social media to businesses began reaching out, asking me to help them.
So how would you describe the differences between the influencer phenomenon and using and leveraging what you do, what social media can do for businesses? Because there's a lot of businesses out there that have now tried to get an influencer to promote their stuff. But talk about the differences between that.
Yeah, so when I hear the word influencer, which that's a fun buzzword, right? So that can mean so many things. We could mean Kim Kardashian, or we could mean the mayor in your town, or just anyone that actually has an influence with whomever it is your audience is. So when I think of businesses doing social media the right way, I think of them realizing it's a way for them to get their message out into the world, conveying what it is that they have to offer. And by doing that in such a way of being, I think, relational, that's why I think, influencers, depending on how you go down that path, has the ability for businesses to really maybe get more people to pay attention, because maybe they don't necessarily know your brand, but they know this person, so they're paying attention to what that person, which really is no different than if I, on my own personal profiles, am saying, you guys, there is this amazing company I know called As Told By. They do this. Bill is X, Y, and Z. So if you need this, go check him out. And that's not even necessarily you guys maybe saying Heather is an influencer, but we all have the ability to influence the people that we are connected to on social media.
So it's another part of the strategy. So if that works as part of your strategy, we've used influencers a couple of times with clients, and it seems to work. It seems to drive engagement,
right,
at least. But that's cool.
And certainly awareness. It brings when the client we used it the most with, their metrics, increased 10 times. Now they started out really low, so any activity was good activity, and
right.
So it seemed to work for that specific campaign. Now there's always a question of, are his 50,000 followers really 50,000 followers? How do we break that down? Only 7,000 of them are from this area, so how is that benefiting that local company.
Right. And I think that's where it also goes into like, what are you measuring to identify, is social media working? Or is this a smart influencer partnership or collaboration? Are you just looking for vanity numbers to increase? Are you actually looking for more engagement? Are you looking for more sales? If so, how many? And at the end of the day, when you know more so what you are trying to accomplish, and then you execute that strategy, or at least create what the plan is, you have a better idea of saying, this is actually what we're trying to accomplish. And
so
we're
how
going
do
in the
you
right direction.
how do you typically, give your clients an idea of their return on investment? Where do you try to steer them to say, okay, by doing the XYZ, you're going to see some sort of return? Because ultimately, if I'm investing money as a business owner into a specific strategy, I want to see some return on it. So where do you kind of define that return?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's a super fun question, which I think makes a lot of people kind of like squirm in their seats, especially if they're sitting in my seat, like I'm trying to justify, like I'm legit, I know what I'm talking
Why
about.
am I paying you?
Right, what are you going to do for me, and what's my 50% return after 30 days? But I think it's so interesting in this world of marketing that if we go back, and not even that far, and I don't have like tons of print advertising experience, I just know it more so as the business. I would pay $400 for something that would be the size of a 4x6 postcard to be in the newspaper for 3 days on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, leading up to an event, having no idea really what I'm getting for that,
or who's seeing it.
Yeah. And that just would be like, let me just try this to see if it works. Versus if I'm sitting down with my distillery client or my skincare client or my contractor client or my coach, and I'm saying, you want to have more visibility within clients that live within the United States. So we may have a goal of, we want increased brand awareness on their social media accounts. We want more leads coming in. We want more traffic on their website. We want more people reaching out to say, I would like to set up to have this free discovery call, and they want sales. All of those things are trackable. But what the problem is, a lot of people, when they just think, I want to hire this person to help me with social media, they want all that in 30 days. And it's I think, a wrong expectation to think you're going to get a 50% ROI on what you've paid someone to do, which, depending on what you're hiring them for, are you hiring them just for a strategy, or are you hiring them to post for you 24/7, do all the engagement, all the responses, do social listening for your brand, and ultimately equate what is the ROI. Mm-hmm. So I always like to say, I really believe that social media done well is for a business that wants to have this is a marathon approach. We're in this for the long haul, and we're not just going, we're going to identify that this is a fail in the next 45 days, or we're going to give up and do something else. Because I think it's a gift for any business, product, service, nonprofit, to genuinely be able to have a two-way street relationship with the people that they want to do business with, and be able to ask questions and be able to engage on your profiles, on other people's, and the list goes on and on. That's
cool. Well, so since we've got you here with all of your experience, could you give us something like actionable? What should people be thinking about as they approach their social media or their public face in general? Like, one of the things we talk to people a lot about is how do you find your audience? How do you know what to say once you get them?
Yeah.
What's some actionable advice that you could give us?
So when I got ready to write this book, I said the world of social media changes like this. Mm-hmm. So I don't want my whole book to be focused on the tactics, because that will make my book irrelevant before it
tactics are done.
Before it gets to the publisher. I'll be like, oh, this is out of date. Yeah. So I really have a huge focus from my philosophy when I'm working with clients to say, you want to have a solid, what I call a social framework to do well on social. So it's a six-part framework that's really just an acronym based on the word social. So number one, you need to have a strong foundation. And simply put, that is, you need to know what you do, who you help, and how you help them. People are busy, they're on the go, they're doing social media, standing at the Kroger checkout line. And if you want to capture their attention, you have to say, what are you doing to disrupt the market? And some people take that to the extreme and they're like, let me talk about every possible controversial thing I can. Some people use bold colors, but at the end of the day, you do have to show up on social having a message to the right audience. The next step is to optimize relationships. I'm a huge advocate. It's about the people. There's a human being on the other side of that mobile phone. There's a real person on the other side of the laptop. So we're not just trying to increase our numbers. We are genuinely trying to strengthen and build and cultivate real connections with real people that could benefit from what our businesses are. C stands for choose the right platform. I think too many business owners are spending too many times trying to be on 6 platforms because they are all relevant, they are all full of real people, but they look average on 6 platforms rather than just actually looking awesome and excellent in one place. And get that going well and get your leads coming in and get some great engagement and then maybe duplicate based on your business resources. So that's a real thing someone could go do right now is go, what is my actual social footprint and do I really look good and legitimate and amazing anywhere? The next step is the I, which is influential content. Too many people are just retweeting what everyone else is saying, or they're just sitting there like a car salesman, honestly, and thinking social is a digital corkboard. This house is for sale. Here's this open house. Buy this. And it's so spammy. And I think it's more so from a lack of knowledge, not that their intent is to say, I just want to show up today in the world and be a spammer. I just think that they need to add their influence, their expertise. Why are they different? Why should I hire you? Why are you even in business doing what you do? And people aren't sharing that story in the midst of what they do. So including that and actually having something that's worthy of people paying attention to is a huge one. Stage 5 is automation in smart systems. Some people, when they hear me say that, the word automation, I think, has a really bad rap. And they think what I am saying is, hire someone that lives like 3 countries away to schedule all your content for like $2 an hour and like never look at your social again. But at the end of the day, there are smart systems in place. So if you actually do have content scheduled ahead of time, then in real time, you and or your team can respond to people or check the direct messages and see if people are waiting for a response, because we live in a society where people want instant gratification. They want responses then. And so checking 2 weeks later to see if someone wrote you a message asking a question about your business isn't good enough. And then the final stage is the legacy and impact that you can make. I just think we live currently in a society that people have a lot of options and people like to do business with people that they trust. And they want to know behind the offering or behind the result. I think they want to know what you stand for. So when companies can incorporate more of that, the humanity of like who they are into what they're doing, all of those coming together, I feel sets business owners up for doing social media well. And I know that's like a lot, but it's like at the end of the day, you don't have to do all of that in 1 hour on one day, but you have to start somewhere.
That's amazing.
It is. I mean, but it's like the perfect
compilation. Like, okay, we're done. That's all we needed.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's the perfect compilation of if you look at that approach of what you're doing in the social media, if you're taking this compilation of tasks, not even tasks, just the right agenda of what you want to be doing and presenting, then the content becomes less relevant.
Well, and I'll say that leads me to my next question, which is you can take a framework like that
right.
and transfer it to whatever platform comes up, right? So if we're thinking about the future, obviously, I've told people recently that Facebook has become the Yellow Pages. So it's become like much more, hey, everybody, I need tires. Where do I go to get tires, right? And then everybody goes, oh my God, you got to use my guy. And so, but Instagram has become the the grandpa, like the standard, and then TikTok has become sort of the new thing. So as things change, where do you foresee, because like I can see it subdividing to the point that all of it gets diluted to the point that none of it really makes a difference. It's not, because it used to be Facebook was the only platform, and if you were on anything, you were on Facebook or Twitter, and now all of a sudden there's 5 different platforms you could be on. Where do you see the future headed for people as they get good at Facebook and then Facebook becomes irrelevant? Where do we go from there?
That's a really good question, and I think it's this balance of paying attention to the changing trends and what is evolving, because I feel like we have to, as business owners, be innovative and be open to the changes. Otherwise, we could be right now sitting at our desk saying, I refuse to do email, like I'm not changing my ways, right? I refuse to have a website, I'm not changing my ways. And those businesses that maybe have said those things are maybe currently no longer in business.
Sure.
Or have maybe a very old school, like referral only type of brand. But that said, I think that you, number one, want to make your shift in platforms be where your people are. Mm-hmm. And so like I'll be the first person to tell you, I love video. Like I was making videos pretending I worked on the local television station since I was like in the 5th grade. So I almost feel like I'm living like my best life going, I can like literally use this phone that's on my desk and like quote pretend I'm on TV, but it's my own channel, right? It's my YouTube channel, it's my Facebook Live, it's all these things. But that not everybody grew up with that passion of being like, I want to pretend like I'm on the local television.
And most people don't.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like it kind of aligns with me going, that's almost maybe why I like doing what I do. I wake up every day joyful of saying, I love this. That said, there are only so many hours in a day. And as being a business owner, I work 25 hours a week because my family is a huge priority. And I've got 3 kids. And so for me, I have not worn the label, I am the TikTok master, because I don't want to take that on and I'm staying in my lane. So I'm not saying that TikTok isn't great, because I believe it's phenomenal and I know great people doing great things there. But I have personally just made the decision to say, I'm gonna stick with strategy. I'm gonna stick with giving people practical things to say, this is what you might wanna consider if you do wanna do TikTok. But even though I love video, I'm just like, I don't have the time to go and take on one more thing. So I think you have to, if you're making that evaluation, don't just do it because Bill and Brian are doing it. Do it, one, if your audience genuinely is there.
Right.
Are they there? And then ask yourself, if I go and do said platform, whether it's TikTok, Pinterest, or whatever, say, what are my goals? Why am I doing this? What are my expectations of this?
What does an actual result look like?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and we, one of the fun things for us is, as it used to be that Facebook was super simple to do. Like, you put something up on Facebook, you get the right people to share it, all of a sudden it takes off. And that isn't happening the way it used to happen, which is fine. It's a free platform. They can do whatever they want. But we've been trying to figure out, how do we transfer business accounts over to TikTok, because we've seen the audiences have been moving to TikTok. I mean, I see that suburban moms are moving to TikTok, right?
Right.
And so that's where they're spending their time. Obviously, you can't go on TikTok and use a advertising campaign because nobody's going to pay attention. The minute you see it, you swipe up. So you have to follow those platforms. But I love the idea of, being able to say, how do we adapt what we do to the way this works? Vine, and if it had lasted for very long, was only 6-second videos.
It should have been 12.
Yeah. Well, whatever. Yeah. But I mean, if you can only do a 6-second video, what do you do, right? And so I love that Instagram in the beginning, the videos were only 15 seconds long. Like, you had to put your message into 15 seconds. What do you do?
Right.
And that's something that energizes me as far as like looking at social media. How can we adapt into the new platform? I'm really kind of excited about LinkedIn and the possibilities for LinkedIn for businesses, because it seems like when I've sent messages to people on LinkedIn, they're really surprised that I'm really sending them a message, not like, happy birthday or, congratulations on your work anniversary. It's like,
Yeah.
When you send people an actual message on LinkedIn, they're like, is this real? Did you really send me a message? And it's kind of cool. You get that interaction that, trying to just find those avenues is one of those things that I think is energizing. I wanted to ask you, because on your social, you market directly to Christian business owners, and I think that's really interesting, that sort of niching that a little bit. Tell me about the motivation for that, and I mean, obviously, other than being a Christian, I imagine.
Sure.
What's the motivation for talking about that in your marketing?
So when I started my first company, I lived in Kentucky, and then in 2014, we moved to Columbia. And this is my hometown, so I'm like, yay, I'm back in my old stomping grounds. But that's when I started my company, Sweet Tea Social Marketing. And at first, if I went back and got my very first business cards, it said, I helped small businesses, churches, nonprofits, and medium-sized organizations. And it was like me being like, I want to help everybody. But I just slowly just began to feel that I was in my blog posts, in my content, I was sometimes saying like, I'm helping churches and I'm helping a business. And so when you're talking about like ROI, and it's just not the same language if you're talking to a church versus you are talking to a business. So I was feeling like this internal pull of like, I want to help churches and I really want to help Christians. And then I just really more so made the decision about a year and a half later to go, you know what, 95% of all my experience is business. And I feel more comfortable, and that's kind of how I feel like I'm wired. That's where I've got more, I'd say, practical experience. And so I said, I'm gonna go more in that route, but I wanted in my marketing for it to still resonate with, I would say, Christians. Mm-hmm. And so personally, I just made the decision to say, I just want to say I help, kingdom CEOs or Christian business owners, because I didn't want it to seem like it was like buried secret. I also didn't want it to seem like I couldn't just be authentically who I was. Just my personal faith is just who you see on Sunday at 11 o'clock at church is the same person you see 3:30 on a Thursday, hopefully, for the most part. And so I tried to live a non-compartmentalized life. And at the same time I say that to you, I've had numerous clients over the years that would not identify as a Christian business.
Sure.
I just personally find that it's very fulfilling to just be doing work for people, I would say, that are like-minded from a Christian perspective. But I have had clients, they say, I see your website says that you work with Christians. I am not a Christian, but I've got this amazing dog shampoo. And I'm like, well, I've got 2 dogs and I love your brand. And they went on to be fantastic clients.
Yeah.
So it really just was a personal conviction that I just felt, there are so many people out there that do social media strategy. Mm-hmm. And I just said, this is something that I just genuinely feel called to do. And so I feel like it's going to resonate with the right people. It's going to maybe repel some people. And I'm okay with that. Sure. Because at the end of the day, I feel like if you're hiring someone to help you with your marketing, you want someone that you get who they are and vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. We found that we work very well with nonprofits and associations, and we have just kind of leaned into that as much as possible. And I think one of the things that helps you probably is that you understand the language, kind of the way that they like to speak to the public and the way that their audience responds to it. Would you recommend people do that? I mean, just like find a way to kind of recognize what you're naturally doing well and just say lean into that, or because a lot of small businesses, we talk to people all the time. They're like, yeah, we want to talk to everybody, or they say something that doesn't have a lot of meaning, like we want to reach Gen Z for some reason, like Gen Z is a specific thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about, like, from a marketing standpoint, the more specific and narrow you can get in your niche regarding like who you want to serve, I feel the better. But I don't think that has to be like a label that you just sit there and like randomly just go and select. So I would personally say the approach that I chose may not make the most sense for everybody, because I just personally felt that God was calling me more so to say, like, do this so through the people that you are helping, who if they are living a life for Christ, then as you're helping their businesses grow, you're ultimately helping like advance more Christian leaders out there that are like doing great things for the world. But that is not, I'm not saying just go and Google something and say, you know what, this looks lucrative, I'm going to go just for this, for that purpose.
Yeah, I think the niches come by embracing your individuality. Like, we all have different individual personas. And the people who are successful, the businesses who are successful on social, are embracing their personality and putting their personality out there. And the more of their persona they can express, that has a natural gravity to other people that feel the same way.
Okay.
So whether it's Christians, whether it's another personality trait, demographic trait, if you embrace that individualism, that resonates. That becomes the niche. And I think a lot of times, even we struggle with it a little bit with businesses embracing a personality. And the ones that you see that are successful on social embrace their personality of the business. The businesses that have someone that's a face of the company, or a couple people that are a face of the company that can express their personality, are the ones that get latched onto.
Well, I'm so glad that you said that, because if I'm thinking back even to like personality tests, I can't even remember the name of them now, but like if I go and take those personality tests, it says like number 1 is like my beliefs are what like drives my focus. Number 2 is like I'm super analytical. So even though I'm like this girl from the South and I embrace and love the Southern culture, I am very much more like Enneagram 8, like get straight to the point, like I don't really like fluff. Like, let's just look at the numbers. Let's get to it. And that honestly isn't a great fit for everybody. So it's almost as much as it is like my faith is important to me. That's really a part of like my story. And what really drives me even as like a business person, which even more so probably aligns with, that's why I'm like, this is going to resonate with the right type of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you know, and I'm not very analytical. That's why I have people like Brian around, right? I'm just sort of chaotic and woohoo, let's go do this thing, you know. And I have to have people.
You should see inside that door.
Yeah, it's not pretty.
That's where the magic
it's not
really
pretty.
happens.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a lot of space, but it is not pretty in there. I think that, you know, in my position of being sort of able to be just creative when I want to be, you know, and have other people help me with keeping things in line and scheduled and analytical. It's like, wait, let's look at the numbers. You know, let's make sure that it all works. You know, let's make sure that we're still making money on this after you've gone crazy with what we're doing. And I think that all, you know, makes a lot of sense to really follow what's natural for you, so that it doesn't feel like you're putting on. So many companies especially, and I think, you know, nonprofits I think do a little bit better with this, because so many of them get started because of their convictions and what they want to do in the world. And so they don't have any problem putting everybody's conversation behind that. But companies a lot of times don't want to step out and say, you know, if we're a, you know, tire store, we don't want to be a unique tire store. We want to be a tire store like every other tire store, right? And you can't stand out that way.
Right.
And so what I love about TikTok, I hate to keep going back to that, but it's like, you know, it allows you to say, if I want to be that person, you know, they'll accept whatever on TikTok as long as it's entertaining. You know, you just can't be boring. So, you know, whatever you want to say is great as long as you're not boring. And so, you know, it's definitely an interesting.
Unless boring is your niche.
Yeah. And
that's my personality.
I tell you, it's funny. Boring. There's a couple that I follow that is a boring couple, and they talk about how boring they are, and it's hilarious.
Their pages has exploded.
Yeah, like they don't. Yeah, they get hundreds of thousands of people on their page, and they talk about how, you know, they don't have a lot of passion in their marriage. They just kind of, you know, they have a kid. And they're not really sure how that happened, and it's like, I think it's a comedy sketch, you know, but their niche is being boring.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, they're not trained actors,
right?
So they have to use their personality and just let it flow.
Yeah, she got a new dress the other day, and it was literally like a beige sack, and she went to her husband. She's like, "Look at my new dress," and he goes, "Yep, you got a new dress." And she goes, "Isn't it just something?" And he goes, "Yep, it's something." And that was the whole sketch. And it was like, because you know their personality, you've seen them come up, you get used to these people being in your life, and then you know that they're the boring people.
Right.
And so I think it's really interesting that we're in a world where we can do that. And like you talked about with the phone, I mean, the way that you get comfortable being on camera is to do it, right? And some people are naturally, very few people, and this is so true, very few people are made to be on camera. Most people are uncomfortable about it. I'm super uncomfortable right now being on camera, but doing it makes me.
That's why he talks a lot.
Seriously, it's nervous energy. I'm getting the nervous energy out. But I think doing it makes you more comfortable, and you've got the phone right there. You don't even have to show anybody. You just need to start recording videos of yourself and get comfortable doing it, and you'll notice the things that you feel like are a little bit more natural, a little bit more to your personality and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's really cool. Well, I think that's great, Heather. Thank you so much for coming in. And the book is called The Golden Rules of Social Media Marketing. It can be found
on Amazon Prime, free shipping, in person if we
Amazon,
happen to meet.
what's up? You're like real. You're on Amazon. That's so
I'm
cool.
on Amazon.
It's hardbound, which is really nice.
There's a soft one too.
Yeah.
Where else can people find you? You have a podcast you mentioned.
Yeah, so my podcast is Business Jesus Sweet Tea. We are on podcast, I think, episode 218, and you can find me online at Sweet Tea Social Marketing. And I would love for you guys to come and be social. Like, I actually just posted some Instagram stories coming here today.
I saw that. That's so cool.
But yeah, I just like it when people just genuinely reach out. And like, I would have to say, like, my closing thing is I want everyone to just realize that social media is not complicated. It is not rocket science. And more often than anything, it's people's own fear or their own insecurity that is stopping themselves from just being willing to put themselves out there. So if you know what your business is and you know what your goals are, just turn around and ask yourself, is there anything in the midst of your social media marketing that slightly resembles the excellence of what you do? And if there's not, every single day is an opportunity for you to get out there and just be human, be real, and actually convey how people can come to do business with you.
Wow, that's a great
I
way
could
to
listen
end
to
it.
her talk about social media all day.
I know, it's so cool. So thank you guys for tuning in. Please subscribe, share this if you love it, and we'll see you on the next one.
Sounds great.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you guys.